All right, we are here live with another edition of the Teflon Tales. Same time, Wednesday is 5:30 p.m. Pacific. So with me today, I have a new guest, Yasmin Ali, who is the CEO at Skillspire. Welcome to the show, Yasmin.
Thank you, Ashwin, for having me.
So just a brief background. This is how I started the show. Is how you and I met. I got introduced to Women in Cloud thanks to Chaitra Vedulapalli, who is one of the founding members. And it was about last week, and I started going through the list of amazing leaders over there, mostly women, a few men like us in that. And that's how I was caught. What caught my attention was what you're doing, your background, and then you and I chatted last week. And as we were talking just briefly before going live, it's like I said, "Hey, you have to be on the show, right?" So okay, so I'm gonna kind of throw this at you, right? Looking at your background, 1997 onwards, you were kind of on the traditional, what I call techie path, right? And I'm going to uh, probably pigeonhole you and me as Indians. Hey, you've come up the techie path, the computer science bachelor's, master's, and then you took a break, and then you came back, and the life changed. So, walk a little bit through that journey, the traditional journey, and then the non-traditional path you're on right now.
Yeah, that's so true. When you say the Indians and, we walk the techie path, which is very true. The minute I landed here, the first thing that my husband said was, okay, I'm going to enroll you in a program and you're going to get more into and this is back, what, in the 90s, right? This is computer science. That's where I think the world is going towards. And I was very new. I came actually from like a business background and got into this, did all the program, did my master's in computer science. And then I had my first son after a very long time and decided that, you know what, I'm going to completely just take a break after this 10 years of career and just went as a, mom, a full-time mom. Um, After the first year, though, it was a lot of stuff,
Mm.
and we moved from the Bay Area to Seattle. And my husband's actually one of the founders of a huge nonprofit organization here in Redmond, and I got involved with community sort of work. So where I got to meet people from all walks of life, from about 50 or 60 different countries, speaking
Mm.
so many different languages, from the basic, like the blue collar workers to the C-level suites, you name it. And I specifically kind of got involved in more on the education side.
Mm.
And, that way I was able to meet all these people who are coming to bring their kids for education, themselves, trying to navigate very simple things that you and I take for granted. Like, how do I go about finding an apartment?
Mm.
How do I apply for benefits from the city, from the state, from the federal? So just started helping them out. And it just became one of those things that, I really enjoy doing. And as they would come, they would ask for suggestions with their kids' education, their career pathways. So this went on for almost 12 years. And I actually homeschooled my children, and among all the other things. And once they went off to school, I said, okay, now it's time for me to go back to the industry. But I
Mm.
was very clear that, what, I do not want a 9 to 5 job. With all this work that I was doing in the community, I wanted something that was a little bit more rewarding and fulfilling and giving back to the society in whatever little ways that I can. And that's when a really good friend of mine was mentioning that, hey, there's a lot of talent around here. Why don't you start like a training company? So I thought about it for a while. And for me, I said, okay, I'm going to focus on people who are from underrepresented communities, women who, like me, have taken a break. Because just before all this business idea came to me, I was also applying, and I quickly realized how intimidating that process is.
Mhm.
Extremely overwhelming. Like, after 12 years of
Yeah.
break, to get back in the market is very, very unnerving. And so I said, I'm going to help women like that. people, refugees and immigrants who come with such fantastic degrees from different countries. We have, I mean, I could go on tell you so many stories of, people who come from, say, Africa, with, computer science diplomas, and then, end up working in Uber or Amazon warehouses. They get into this vicious cycle where they're just
Yeah.
not able to get out. And I was fortunate enough to have a backing, like my husband, who was able to kind of, push me through and provide that network and support. But I don't think many people are lucky enough to have that. So Skillspire wants to be that bridge. And that's one of our biggest missions, that we want to level the playing field, get more people of color and, more underrepresented communities into the tech. And that's what we started out doing in 2016.
Wow. Okay. So there's lots of Teflon analogies over here, right? So let me start with the first one, right? Taking a break while you're on this career path or trajectory going upwards and saying, okay, I want to be a mom, right? Um, how did you get past that judgmental world of what do people think? Number one. Number two, as an extension of that, which is homeschooling your kids. Again, it's different, right? And I know more parents are doing it right now. But again, going back to Teflon, it's like, hey, you're hot at something, you're good at it, and now you're starting something brand new. How did you get over the self doubt, as well as what the community, or Brene Brown says, hey, the people in the stadium who are commenting on while you're in the arena?
You know, life actually throws, certain things, and you're forced to make some choices, right? I mean, I waited a long time to have my first son. And that in itself, that, I was extremely clear that, what, I am going to take this break. And I walked away. This is back in, I would say, 91, making a six-figure salary, and I walked away from it, and didn't hesitate. And then when I made the choice of homeschool, it was, and I'd have to say that, homeschooling really taught me that resilience that you need, in building a business. Every day is different. Kids go through ups and downs, and just to, but I felt like, I think they get a better foundation, um, and that's one of the choices that we as a family made. And if you go back and ask my kids, they would say, "No, I definitely don't want to, homeschooling. No, no way." Because my daughter, who's 14 now, actually, she went back like about 2 years ago, and she's the social butterfly, and she's made so many friends, and she's looking forward to getting into high school now. So yeah, I mean, it's a big choice. I mean, what the homeschooling was a huge choice for us, but I think it was very rewarding.
So fast forwarding to Skillspire, right? And again, same question, which is, you were introduced to so many people, and lots of people have passion, but then turning that passion into something which is meaningful, understanding again, what you do not want to compromise on, which is, hey, you don't want to have a 9 to 5 job, yet you want to have an impact and learn something brand new. So again, talk some of the things, you mentioned the community. Are there other skills that you acquired? You mentioned resilience. Anything else that jumps out at you, again, for the purpose of listeners out there who are like, want to do something, but then something is holding them back? So what allowed you to how did you give yourself the permission to move forward?
Yeah, I'm reminded of, my brother. One of this. I mean, when I was talking to him about the company and just discussing different things, one of the things that he mentioned, that, and my husband always says this as well, that a lot is expected from, a lot is expected from you when you're given, when you have things with you, then a lot is expected from you. I mean, meaning that, when you're in a privileged place, then a lot is expected of you. And I think we, be it my family, even my dad, back in India, he was very, very focused on it. He was such a giving person. He would definitely encourage, people to kind of go, get your education. That's what's going to, really see you through life and things like that. So I guess that was kind of there in the background. And And I would say that, if when we are in a place of giving, I
Mhm.
think all of us, we do have a responsibility, and we need to take that seriously. And I feel like, that, our time here in this earth, I know it's getting very philosophical, but I say it, it's a very short time.
Yeah.
And after you go through a certain stage, you look back and say, okay, what have I accomplished? Is it only for myself? Or is it, have I done something to better the people around me, the community around me? And in what ways have I helped? I think those are some of the things that, as you grow older, you do start to think about it. And I hope, and I hope and really pray that, my kids would, feel like, hey, mom did something that was really useful. This is something that is really changing lives. And take these kinds of, issues, and kind of grow with it, because, I think it's it's absolutely, needed in this day and age, where, we live as a very self-centered society.
Yeah. So you mentioned something again, which I brought my guests on, right? Which is sometimes realization comes, as you said, growing older, right? And myself the same way. But there's a twin challenge with that. As you grow older, your roots are stronger. You have gotten good at a few things, unless you're Elon Musk, you've experimented with 20 different things. But most people, you have skills that you're kind of uh, you've gotten good at, and yet this gnawing thing, okay, there has to be more than this, it has to be more than me, there has to be, like, to your point that you in the video that we were talking about earlier, if there's one life that has been bettered because of what you did, that's success for you. So as people get this feeling of, okay, what's the larger purpose, there's also a bigger challenge because they may not have experimented with many things. So you say, I'm really good at this. I've been doing this for a decade, 2 decades, 3 decades, whatever. And then now, hey, that's really what I want to be doing, but I don't know how to get from here to there. So in your case, again, the what you mentioned about your husband's nonprofit and the awareness that you got by connecting with people from different communities, underprivileged immigrants, etc. But what advice do you have for somebody who's like not stuck per se, but who's kind of gotten a few skills really down to the T, and they're really hot on that and Teflon side. But how do they start a brand new stuff and start something without either giving imposter syndrome settling in and or worrying about what the world is going to tell them?
Yeah, I think all of us face that, right? When you have the right intentions, but how do you kind of make that happen? But to that, I would say that, I think, go with that flow, with that intention. You take that first step, and either magically the next steps just start to happen. It really does. It might sound crazy, but it's like, when you go meet a person, that person's going to actually introduce you to somebody else. They introduce to another network, and before you know it, you're just on to something, and you then finally connect the dots, and they all paint a picture. So it does happen. So I think if anyone has any passion, or they want to give back to the society in some way, they just need to start even very, very small, really small, and you never know where that would lead you. And before you know it, you would be in a completely different place where you imagine. I was just telling my son that, hey, I have to get on a podcast, in about 15 minutes. And he goes, you're kind of doing all over the place. I said, Zayan, I didn't sign up for this. It just happened.
Yeah.
And it's completely different, but and eventually I hope that this is a motivation for other people, motivating people in the tech industry or in the nonprofit industry, to kind of address these issues that are kind of boiling in our society. Every single day I'm talking to women, women from such different backgrounds. They want to get ahead, but for whatever, barriers or challenges, are just unable to. And I kind of focus them to is like, okay, have you tried this, have you tried that? And you as you meet and talk to people, people are very open and they would share a lot of the resources, and you get to learn as well as meet some really great people along the way.
Yeah, so one of the things that you mentioned, which again is a hard step, but it's super important because I've gone through that myself, which is you mentioned taking a career break and then applying, and the 12-year hiatus that you had, and the okay, this is incredibly hard trying to get back into the workforce, but at the same time realizing there are other folks in the same boat. So while you were trying to kind of get back in yourself, you're actually thinking about using what you're learning to help others, right? So, and I think it's such an important thing where it's like otherwise, oh, I'm going to get to the finish line, then I'm going to help you run the 100-meter race. No, it's like, hey, you're
Yeah.
meter one, you got to help somebody to kind of get off the starting line. So, how did that come about?
Yeah, that's a really good question, because I wouldn't say that I didn't have that imposter syndrome. Now, how do I get over that? And I think the best way to kind of think about it is, I don't even know swimming, then how am I going to kind of take everyone else ashore
Right.
or whatever, right? I mean, something like that. But and it again goes back to the point of, there were some things that I felt like, what, this is what makes me happy, this is what makes me really wake up the next morning and just go about doing my stuff. And that's working with people. And I love getting on the on a call or meeting with people, meeting people from different parts of the world, understanding their backgrounds, and then just helping through. So for me, that's what kept me going. And before you know it, I think, who cares about imposter syndrome? I'm like, you know what? It's okay. Everyone's human. You make mistakes, you learn things, and you just keep going. If you did something today, then, maybe come back tomorrow, you'll have a completely different perspective. And I think, also, I think I do have to say that, with time, you kind of mature and learn. And one thing that you definitely learn is a lot of determination, and consistency is really, really important. Whatever you do, I guess you have to get into a more consistent schedule, be it your exercise that you have to do every day, or the work that you do every day, the calls that you have to make to people every day. It's just, kind of chip away, one step at a time.
Yeah, and talking about consistency, I think you have. I was going through the video of yours, and you have this attribute listed behind your desk, right? So,
Yeah.
one of the again, I think you mentioned failings and learnings and moving on, right? So from 2015 until now, that's a lot of learnings, right, along the way. So talk about some of the Teflon analogies over here in terms of things that you had to cool down on because either the market wasn't there or your assumption was wrong, and or new things that you had to pick up along the way that you never thought would be part of your game plan.
Yeah, I mean, building a business is no joke. I mean, that much, and I would have never thought that, I could do this. If you had asked me, like, maybe 10 years from, before. So that in itself was a huge undertaking. And then, with the business comes the network that you have to adapt to, the people that you have to kind of tread into more of that uncomfortable zone, go to conferences where you don't know anybody and just try to be there and just like act as if you're like, everybody and talk to everybody. I mean, not everyone's cut out to do that. Some
Yeah.
are really great at it, but some are not. For me, it was a huge learning. So I think there have been a lot of challenges and will continue to have a lot of challenges whenever you're hiring somebody new. You're constantly thinking that, is this person the right fit for the company? How's the team going to work as, together? Are they bought off on our mission? Do they care enough to be, about our mission? So there's just so many different things. And then, of course, comes the financials. When there is an unpaid customer, then how do you deal with them? There's just so many different things that I but then you know what, I think I've just realized that the more you kind of wallow yourself in these kinds of issues, you can never get ahead. So I tend to, yes, take, and I think I have to say that I do have an advisory board that you can go back and just talk to them and make sense out of this thing. And any company, any startup or any company that's just building, and from the grassroots, do have these challenges, and you just have to keep doing what you believe in.
Absolutely. And talking about conferences and icebreakers, I'll share this with you. I just posted this, I think, yesterday or the day before, which is, and I use this was pre-COVID when we used to have physical conferences, right, as an icebreaker. I mean, I feel the same thing, right? Going into a conference, like, hey, I'm sitting at this lunch table, or hey, here's this networking breakout rooms. Like, how the hell do you start networking, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I hit upon something like 3 years ago, and I've been using that since, and it works like a charm every single time, right? So Yasmin, you and I, we haven't met. I see you for the first time. We come over here, and the typical question is, hey, what do you do, right? And so if you ask me that question, I'd turn back and say, that's not the question you should be asking. Ask me, why do you do? And every single time, I've used it about like 20, 25 times. Every single time it ends up in a deep conversation, right? Either that person thinks I'm wacko, I'm grammatically challenged or something, or they say like, what did you say? And it's like, hey, the why should precede the what and the how, right? And
Right, right.
so like Simon's an says. So final question, right? Which is really the ability to not burn out, right? One of the amazing things about Teflon is the ability to cool down and remain non-sticky, right? And as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, the one of the biggest challenges is not burning both ends of the candle. So talk a little bit about how you find separation and be able to kind of cool down really quickly so you can come back the next day and get hot again.
Yeah, you know that how Indian homes are, right? So I'm married to an Indian man who loves good Indian food. So, at the end of the day, you just have to kind of say, okay, this is it. I'm done for the day, and just walk out. And I would have to say that, and I think I am quite, very strongly rooted in my faith as well. So that plays a huge role in my everyday life. So I strongly believe that, we're all put in here for a reason. We have to do as individuals to, for the betterment of society, but also, for your own self, for the betterment of your own self, right? And you mean, be it intellectually, spiritually, physically, so you do have to do all that stuff for yourself. And I think that's what gives me that, complete break, that I take, cool down. I love doing yoga. So I go do my yoga, I go for my walks. And those are the things that really, cool me down at the end of the day. And then I get started again the very next day.
Yeah, so great tips over there. Again, I love what you said, which is the ability to kind of have an anchor point, right? Be it your faith, your walking, your exercise. So again, Yasmin, I know we met less than a week ago, but looks like we've been connected for a long time. So thanks for your time and thanks for what you're doing with Skillspire, and looking forward to keeping in touch.
Thank you very much, Ashwin.
All right, thanks. Bye.
Bye bye.